Why did one joke about my husband being too weak to protect me end with a process server handing me divorce papers in a crowded family restaurant? How did I go from laughing with my friends about how he would be a burden in a crisis to watching everyone read the legal words saying I was the unsafe one? What if the man I called useless was the only person in the room who actually stayed calm and did everything by the book? Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible stories. I'm still not sure how a joke turned into a life sentence with my name on legal papers. I was just being honest. That's how I see it. I said what everyone else was thinking. My husband could never protect me and would only be a burden if something bad ever happened. People laughed. Even now, I think the joke was funny. It was the truth that hurt him, not the words. I work hard, I look good, I plan everything. He is fine, kind, soft, the kind of man who freezes when someone raises their voice. How is that supposed to make me feel safe? I did not cheat because I am evil. I cheated because I needed to feel secure, strong, wanted. Respect follows results, and I had results. He had feelings. So when that man walked into the restaurant and said my full name in front of my parents, his parents, and our daughter, I thought it was some mistake. A delivery, maybe, not a divorce petition, not temporary orders, not proof that my weak husband had been quietly building a case against me while I was busy collecting laughs. I did not plan the joke. That is what I keep telling myself. It was not a script. It was just a feeling that slipped out of my mouth when the night was already loud and messy. Still, when I think back, I see all the small moments that pushed me there. The evening started normal. I stood in front of the mirror, fixing my eyeliner, choosing the tighter dress instead of the safe one. Evan came to the bedroom door and asked if I really needed to go out when we had both had a long week. I said my friends had not seen me in months, and I needed a break from mom mode. He asked if he was invited. I said it was just the girls and their partners, and we needed his car more than his company. He went quiet after that. He picked up the laundry basket and put away shirts like he was in some sad commercial. I watched him in the reflection and thought he looked soft. Not just his body, his whole way of moving. Careful, gentle, too careful, too gentle. I told myself I needed contrast. I told myself I deserved a man who made me feel small in a good way, not like I was carrying him. At our friend Kara's condo, the music was already loud. The place smelled like cheap wine and scented candles. People shouted hellos. Someone said we were the power couple at last, which made me laugh. Evan carried in the snacks I had made while I walked around with just my phone and a small clutch. We sat in a circle on the floor for a drinking game. Cards, dares, personal questions. The kind of thing you do in your late 20s when you still pretend you are in college. I like those games. They let me talk without looking like I am bragging. The questions started light. Worst date. Most embarrassing moment. Who cried last week? People shared soft stories, and everyone clapped and cheered. When it was my turn, someone asked how I knew Evan was the one. I said I did not believe in the one. I said you pick someone and build with them. It sounded serious and mature. People nodded. Evan smiled a little. Later, the game shifted. Someone drew a card that said we had to talk about who would survive a zombie attack. It was stupid and childish, but the room loved it. One by one, people joked about their partners. Too slow, too clumsy, too drunk. Everyone laughed. It felt like air bubbles popping on my skin. Kara pointed across the circle and said we should vote on which couple would last longest in a crisis. I said it would be me and then I paused. I looked at Evan, sitting there in his soft sweater, hands folded, polite smile. I looked at the guys with bigger arms, louder voices. I heard myself say that, in a real emergency, Evan would probably just freeze and get in my way. People laughed. It was a quick, sharp sound. Someone said I was savage. I liked that. I added that if something bad ever happened, I would have to pull him along like dead weight, and honestly, it would be easier without him. I said he would be a burden. The word felt heavy in my mouth and light at the same time. Someone lifted their phone and pretended to film. Someone else actually filmed. One girl said she could not believe I said that, but she was grinning. It was that kind of grin that wants more. So I gave more. I said that was why I went to the gym so much, because I could not count on my husband to keep me safe. The laughter got louder. A guy slapped Evan on the shoulder and told him not to let me talk like that. Evan smiled in a strange way, small and tight. He said he was happy I knew how strong I was. His voice was calm, but his eyes did not match. He looked tired. For a moment, the noise in the room made a bubble around me. I felt light, important, seen. I thought, this is what it means to be honest, to not sugarcoat things, to say what every woman thinks when her man is too soft. I still think I was telling the truth, but the bubble broke. I noticed Evan was not in the circle anymore. His drink was on the table. His place on the floor was empty. Kara asked where he went. I said he was probably sulking. People laughed again, but it was weaker. I found him on the balcony. He stood with his hands on the railing, looking at the city lights. He asked why I said those things in front of everyone. I said it was just a joke. He asked if I really saw him as a burden. I said I was only saying what everyone else already saw. I told him I was tired of protecting his feelings. He said that being my punchline felt different from being my partner. He said he felt like an accessory to my life, not a person in it. I told him he was overreacting. I said people liked me more when I was honest, and that we both knew he would not fight anyone in a dark alley. He looked at me like he was trying to find a door back into the conversation and only saw walls. We drove home in near silence. He asked once if I was sober enough to be driving. I said I had mostly eaten, not drunk. He asked if we could talk when we got home. I said I was tired and my feet hurt. It is funny how those small refusals pile up into something sharp. At home, he did not follow me into our bedroom. He went straight to the guest room and laid a fresh sheet on the bed. I watched him from the hallway. He asked if I wanted to talk now. I said I did not want to repeat the same drama. I said he needed to grow thicker skin. I said if one joke could break him, then maybe he was weak. He looked down at his phone. I saw the screen light his face. For a second, I saw a calendar alert pop up. Meeting, personal downtown, 9:30 a.m. I asked if he was seeing someone else that he had not told me about. He said it was nothing serious, just something he needed to do. I rolled my eyes and said it was cute that he thought he had secrets. As I turned away, the phone buzzed again. A short banner flashed at the top and disappeared before I could read it, but I caught one word. Follow-up. It sounded boring. It sounded like something weak people did when they wanted to talk instead of act. I did not care. I went to our bed alone. I scrolled through the party clips that friends had already posted. In one, you could hear my voice clear and strong over the music, saying he would be a burden. People had reacted with laughing faces and fire emojis. A few had written that I was wild, that they loved my energy. I liked every comment. Evan knocked once on the doorframe. He asked if I would take the clip down. I said it was my page, my image, my rules. He said it was our life. I laughed and told him he was acting like I had accused him of a crime. I said if he wanted respect, he needed to give me something to respect. He did not argue after that. He just said he understood more than I thought. His voice was calm again. Too calm. I told him to stop being dramatic and go to sleep. He walked back to the guest room, closed the door softly, and left me with the glow of my phone and the echo of my own laughter in my ears. In that moment, I still believed I was winning. The next morning, Evan was already gone when I woke up. His side of the closet was neat, like always, and mine looked like a sail rack after a storm. I checked my phone. No good morning text from him, just a message about Mia's lunch and the time he would drop her at school. I told myself this was proof he was sulking. I told myself a strong man would have confronted me, argued, made some big speech about respect. Silence felt like weakness. At work, our open plan office buzzed the way it does on Monday mornings. People pretended to type while they traded weekend stories over their monitors. I walked in with my coffee and my best "I had the wildest weekend" face. I liked that feeling, when people turned to see what I was wearing and what mood I was in. Priya waved me over to her desk. She asked how the party went and said she had already seen a clip. My stomach did a small jump, but in a good way. I knew exactly which clip she meant. I asked what she thought. She said it had a vibe. I opened my phone and scrolled to the video Kara had posted. There I was, clear as day, telling everyone that my husband would be a burden in any real emergency. The camera shook with laughter. Someone had commented that I was too real. Another wrote that I needed a bodyguard, not a babysitter. A familiar username had left 2 laughing emojis and a flexed arm. It was Luca, the trainer from my gym, the one with the easy smile who always added extra weight to my routines and called it building power. He had followed me on social media a few weeks earlier, after he asked if he could post my progress squat video. I had said yes because why not? Now he was watching my marriage through a screen like everyone else. Priya leaned closer and asked if Evan was okay with that video. I told her he was being sensitive, but he would get over it, that it was just a joke. She said the words sounded harsh when she heard them out loud. She reminded me that some of our co-workers also knew Evan. I told her people needed to lighten up, and that if Evan wanted people to see him as strong, he could go lift something heavier than a clipboard. My manager passed by and asked, with a half smile, if I had had a fun Saturday. I said the game got a little dark, but it was all in good fun. He laughed politely and walked away. I watched him open his laptop and wondered if he was judging me. Then I thought that a woman who worried about being judged was a woman with no power, and I pushed the thought down. Around lunch, a new notification popped up on my phone. It was a message request from Luca. He wrote that the video had made him laugh and that I was brutally honest. He asked if everything was okay at home. I stared at the message for a bit, enjoying the feeling that someone as strong as him was checking on me. I told him everything was fine, just normal marriage stuff, and that sometimes I forgot Evan was in the room when I started telling the truth. Luca replied that he guessed not every guy was built for pressure. He added that some men shut down when things get real. I agreed too quickly. I said Evan always went quiet instead of taking charge. I said it was exhausting. In the afternoon, I had to stay late to finish a report. Priya asked if I wanted company at the office or a drink after. I said both. We worked for an extra hour, and then a group of us went to the bar around the corner. It was noisy and warm, filled with people from nearby offices pretending they were not exhausted. We ordered drinks and shared a plate of fries. People started asking again about the party. One co-worker said the video of me was going around in another group chat. I asked if people were offended or entertained. He said mostly entertained, but there were a few comments that maybe I had gone too far. I told a story about Evan freezing once when the fire alarm went off at our building. I said I had been the one to grab our kid's shoes and bag. I said he had just stood there, holding his phone. I left out the part where he had been calling the front desk to ask if it was a false alarm so Mia would not panic. That detail did not fit the image I wanted to draw. Luca walked in. He was not supposed to be there, not really. The bar was open to everyone, but it felt like my space. He saw me and smiled with that easy, open face that made people trust him. He came over and asked how my famous husband was handling being internet content. The group laughed. I told them that Evan had slept in the guest room, like some rejected reality show contestant. Someone asked Luca if he would ever let a woman talk about him like that. He said he would give her something to respect first. The way he said it made my skin buzz. I leaned closer without really thinking. I asked if he meant physical strength or something else. He said both, but mostly not freezing when things went bad. I wished Evan was there for just a second, so he would see how a real man answered those questions. Then I remembered he would hate this whole scene, and I used that as fuel. I told myself that if he could not stand a little public honesty, maybe he did not deserve a private life with me. My phone buzzed on the table. It was a message from Evan. He said he hoped my day was going okay and asked when I would be home. He added a note about Mia, asking when we would all have dinner together again. I looked at his message and felt a faint irritation. It sounded needy. I told myself that he could make his own dinner and put his own daughter to bed. I replied that I was working late and might go out after. He asked if I was safe getting home. I typed that I was fine and that he did not need to worry about me like I was a child. I did not tell him I was already sitting next to a man who made me feel safer just by the way he filled out his shirt. When it was time to leave, Luca offered to walk me to my car. Priya raised her eyebrows but said nothing. Out on the street, the air was cooler. The city lights were sharp and bright. I felt nice in my dress, with my hair still holding its shape. Luca asked if I was really okay with all the jokes online. I told him I started them. He nodded and said that some men could not keep up with a strong woman. I told him it felt good to be around someone who understood that strength was not just about being kind. He said he liked that I pushed myself at the gym and in life. He asked if I ever felt alone in my marriage. I said sometimes I felt like the only adult in the room. We stopped next to my car. There was a small pause, the kind that stretches. He stepped closer, not enough to touch me, but enough that the space between us felt charged. For a second, I wondered what would happen if I leaned in. My heart thumped. I pictured Evan's face if he saw us. I told myself he would probably just shut down and walk away like always. That thought made me angry and braver at the same time. In the end, I did not kiss Luca. I told him I had to be careful because I was still married. I said it in a way that hinted I might not always be. He smiled and said he respected that. He added that if I ever needed someone to talk to, he was there. I knew what that meant. On the drive home, my phone buzzed with a new message. It was from him, saying he was glad I got home safe and that he liked our talk. He said I deserved to feel protected. I read it at a red light and felt a warm glow spread through me. Protected. The word I always wanted and never got from Evan, or at least not in the way I imagined. When I stepped into the apartment, the lights were low. The TV was off. Evan sat at the dining table with his laptop open. He looked up and asked calmly if I'd eaten. I said yes. He asked if I had fun. I said it was just a normal work thing. He nodded and looked back at the screen. I walked closer and saw rows of numbers. Dates, times, short notes. I asked what he was doing. He said he was going through some household stuff. I laughed and told him he had too much time on his hands. I said he was always making lists instead of changes. He closed the laptop halfway, as if he was done, but I noticed a small, neat folder on the desktop with a simple name. It was just Archive A. There was another, Archive B. I asked why he needed archives in his own home. He said he liked things organized. I told him he was boring. On the sideboard near the wall, a small USB stick lay next to our taxes folder. It looked like nothing. Just another piece of plastic. I asked if he was moving our files. He said he was backing things up. I said he was acting like he expected a disaster. He said calmly that one should always be ready, even if they did not look like the strongest person in the room. I rolled my eyes and told him he was not fooling anyone with his quiet speeches. I went to the bedroom, changed into an old t-shirt, and checked my phone again. New likes on the video. A new message from Luca, just a simple good night. Nothing technically wrong. Nothing I could not explain away. As I slid into bed alone, I could hear the faint click of Evan's keyboard down the hall, steady and patient. I told myself he was just making lists, the way weak people did when they wanted to feel in control. I did not see the pattern yet. I only saw myself, lit by my phone screen, basking in strangers' laughter, while my husband quietly turned our life into lines on a spreadsheet. The video from the party did better than I expected. By midweek, it was not just my friends and co-workers talking about it. Someone had saved it, cut it shorter, and shared it in a local parenting group. The title they gave it was something like, "When your husband is useless in a crisis, but at least you're honest." That made me laugh. People loved honesty. Mia and I were at the kitchen table when my phone buzzed with the notification. She was coloring a picture of a castle. I was scrolling. I watched myself on the screen again, holding a drink and smiling, while I said my husband would be a burden if anything bad happened. The comments under this new post were mixed. Some women wrote that they felt the same. Others wrote that it was cruel. One comment said that if a man posted a video mocking his wife like that, people would call it emotional abuse. I rolled my eyes. People always have big words for small things when a woman does them. Mia asked what I was laughing at. I told her Mommy was just watching a silly video. She asked if Daddy was in it. I said yes, a little. She said she liked Daddy when he was funny. I did not answer. Later that afternoon, I took her to the playground. The air was cool, but the sun was bright. The metal slide glared like a mirror. Children ran in circles around the swings, shouting and squealing. I sat on a bench with my phone, like every other parent, half watching, half scrolling. Mia climbed the small rock wall and shouted for me to look. I told her she was strong, that she did not need anyone to lift her. A mom next to me smiled and said my daughter was brave. Then she asked in a casual voice if my husband ever came to the park. She said she had only seen me. I said he was working early shifts and late shifts and soft shifts. I said he was not really a park dad. I joked that if a stranger ever tried to grab Mia, I would have to protect both of them, because he would probably freeze. The mum made a little surprised sound, then laughed along. It was that polite kind of laugh people do when they are not sure what else to do. Another mum walked over. She said she had seen the video in the group and asked if it really was my husband. I said yes, and told them they were lucky if their partners were not so weak. I said I was just being realistic. I added that I went to the gym because I could not count on him to keep us safe. Someone across the playground lifted their phone. At first, I thought they were taking a picture of their kid. Then, I heard the small chime the app made when recording started. I knew, without looking, that my voice was getting saved again. It did not scare me. It excited me. I could tell the story of my life in my own words, and if people could not handle it, that was their problem. Mia started a game with another little girl. They shouted that a monster was coming. Mia grabbed the other girl's hand and said, clear as a bell, that they had to run because Daddy is too slow to save us. The other girl laughed. The mums looked at me. I felt a quick sting in my chest, but I pushed it down. I told them kids just mixed up words. I said she probably got it from some cartoon. Inside, I liked that she saw me as the strong one. If she trusted me more, was that not proof I was doing something right? When we got home, Evan was already there. His shift had been early. Mia ran to him and repeated the game story. She told him that if a monster came, Mommy would save them because he was too slow, and he would just get in the way. She said it like it was a joke, expecting laughter. His face changed. Not angry, not exactly, just hurt. He crouched down and asked Mia who told her that. She said she heard it from me and from the phone. She said the ladies at the park laughed. He looked up at me. He did not raise his voice. He asked if I had really said those things at the park too. I told him people wanted funny stories. I told him Mia did not understand the context. I said he was twisting simple jokes into some deep wound. He said it felt like he was being cut open in public over and over. He said that when our daughter repeated those words, it felt like losing something he could not get back. I said he was making it about his feelings again. I told him I was just trying to stay honest instead of lying to make him feel strong. He said he worked in an emergency room, that he dealt with real crises. He said he saw blood and death and panic every week. He asked why that never counted as strength to me. I told him that was different, that it was work strength, not the kind of strength that made a woman feel protected at home. I said any nurse could follow instructions. A leader gave them. He went quiet then. He walked away to the bedroom and closed the door. I told myself I had won that conversation. I had held my line. I had not let him guilt me. Later, I went to the gym. I wore leggings that showed my shape and a crop top I knew looked good. Lucas saw me walk in and called me a warrior. He asked if I was ready to train like someone who saves people, not someone who needs saving. I laughed and said I had been doing that my whole life. Between sets, I told him about the playground. I said my husband was upset because our kid repeated my jokes. Lucas shook his head and said some men could not handle even a mirror. He said if a child recognized weakness, it was not the child's fault. It sounded so clean when he said it, like a rule. I liked the way he watched me when I lifted, not just my body, but my effort. He added small weights and said I could handle it. He stood behind me during squats, close enough that I could feel his presence, not touching, but near. He told me I had good balance. I thought how Evan always hovered like he was afraid I would fall. After the workout, we went to the smoothie bar by the door. He paid, even when I offered. He said it was a small thing. He asked if I felt safe going home to a man who seemed so hurt all the time. I said I felt bored more than unsafe. I told him the only time I felt truly protected was when I was alone or when I was with people like him. He asked what I meant by people like him. I said men who acted, not just talked. Men who moved forward in a crisis. Men who did not freeze. Men whose bodies showed they could handle impact. I knew I was flirting. I wanted him to see it. He put his hand over mine on the counter for a second. Just a brief touch, warm and firm. He said I deserved that kind of presence. I did not pull away. When I got home, Evan was on the floor with Mia, building a tower out of blocks. They looked up when I came in. Mia told me they were practicing rescue drills with her toys. She said Daddy was showing her how to stay calm if something bad happened. She sounded proud. Evan asked, in a quiet voice, if I could please stop posting new jokes about him. He said the hospital already felt tense because some co-workers had seen the video. He said patients' families had made comments. He said he was starting to feel watched at work. I told him if he did not want to be in a joke, he should stop acting like one. I said I was allowed to vent. I said other women complained about worse things, like cheating or hitting, and nobody told them to stay quiet. I said he should be glad I only mocked his softness. He looked down, like he was counting to 10. Then he asked if we could go to counseling. I laughed. I said I did not need a stranger to tell me my husband was weak. I said, if anything, he should go alone and learn how to step up. That night, I woke up thirsty. The apartment was dark. I walked to the kitchen for a glass of water. As I passed the small office corner in the living room, I heard a soft hum. It took me a moment to realize it was the printer. It spat out a single page and then stopped. I frowned and turned on the desk lamp. The page in the tray was blank. No ink, just faint tracks from the rollers. The room smelled like toner. Evan sat at the table with his laptop open. The light from the screen made his face look cold. I asked what he was doing. He minimized a window and said he was just doing some household work. I saw a spreadsheet before it closed. The top row had simple words: date, event, location, witnesses. The columns went down farther than I could see. I joked that he was acting like a lawyer, not a nurse. I asked if he was keeping score of all the times I hurt his feelings. He said he was keeping track of facts, because feelings got dismissed when he brought them up. He said it calmly, like he was reading a recipe. I snorted and told him facts would not make him stronger. I said people did not respect spreadsheets. They respected presence. He did not argue. He just saved the file. A small cloud icon in the corner of the screen spun and then showed a check mark. A message popped up for a second. File uploaded successfully. I did not bother to read the whole thing. I flipped off the light, took my water, and went back to bed. Behind me, the faint hum of the computer and the smell of toner stayed in the air like something half-burned. I told myself it was nothing, just another way for him to feel busy. I lay awake for a while, my phone in my hand, reading new messages from Luca. He said he liked training with a woman who did not pretend her life was perfect. He said I seemed strong enough to make hard choices. I smiled in the dark and told myself that was true. If Evan was quietly building some little record, it did not worry me. Records were for people who did not know how to act. I had already decided who I was, the strong one, the honest one, the one who saw the truth. I did not see that the truth could be written down and used in ways I could not control. Not yet. I told myself the family dinner would fix everything. If people heard the full story, they would see I was the one trying to keep this family strong. That was the picture in my head when my mother texted, asking if we could all come over on Sunday. She wrote that it had been too long since a proper family meal. I knew what she really meant. She had seen the videos, heard the whispers, and wanted her front row seat. I said yes right away. Evan just nodded when I told him, like he already knew it was coming. He asked if my parents had said what they wanted to talk about. I said it was just dinner, nothing heavy, and added that he should be grateful they cared. He said he understood, and his face closed a little more. On Sunday afternoon, I spent extra time on my makeup. Not soft, sweet makeup. Sharp liner, strong lips. I wanted to look like a woman in control. Evan wore a simple shirt and jeans. The guest room bed was neatly made behind him, his pillow still there. A small suitcase sat by the wall, half open, with folded clothes inside. I asked if he was going somewhere. He said not yet. He said he liked to be prepared. I laughed and told him he was acting like there would be a disaster. He said in a quiet voice that in some ways it had already happened. At my parents' house, the smell of roasted chicken and garlic hit us as soon as we walked in. Helena greeted us with loud kisses and called me her warrior. She hugged Mia and told her she was getting so big. When she saw Evan, she gave him a brief hug and asked if he was handling all the online jokes like a big boy. She said it in a teasing voice, but his jaw tightened. Tom came out of the kitchen wiping his hands. He asked Evan about the hospital, then asked me how work was. His eyes flicked back and forth between us, like he was checking for cracks. Sophia lounged on the sofa, phone in her hand. She showed me a meme she had made, a cartoon man hiding behind his tiny wife while zombies ran past. The caption said, "When you need a husband but get a roommate." She had added a little wink emoji and tagged me. I laughed and said it was perfect. She asked if she could post it. I told her to go ahead. Evan heard us and went even quieter. We sat down at the table. It was full. My parents, Sophia, us, and, a bit later, Graham and Nia, who arrived with a bottle of wine and polite smiles. They hugged Mia and asked how school was. They hugged Evan longer. Nia squeezed my shoulders too, but her eyes were serious. Dinner started normal. Small talk, clinking plates, stories about work. Helena steered the conversation toward relationships like she always did. She asked Sophia if any men at her job were worth her time. She asked me how married life with a gentle soul was treating me. I took the bait. I shrugged and said it was fine, but it was hard being the only strong one. I said it with a light tone, like it was half joke, half truth. Sophia giggled. Helena nodded and said some women were just born leaders. Tom cut his chicken and asked, in a careful voice, if everything between us was okay. Evan said he was trying. He said he felt like he was living in a sketch show, and everyone was laughing but him. Helena rolled her eyes and asked if he was seriously offended by jokes on the internet. She said real men did not care about that. That was when Mia spoke up. She had been quiet, busy with mashed potatoes and little stories to her stuffed bunny. Now she looked at Helena and said that Mommy was the strong one and Daddy was slow. She said that if a bad guy came, Daddy would just stand there and look scared, and Mommy would have to drag him so he was not a burden. The table went very still. Graham put his fork down. Nia looked at her son, then at me. Tom frowned. Helena laughed first, too loudly. She said kids picked up all kinds of strange things from cartoons. She asked Mia where she heard that. Mia looked straight at me and said she heard it from my phone and from my mouth. Evan stared at his plate. His hands were steady, but his neck was red. Graham asked me gently if I had really used that word, burden, in front of Mia. I said it was just adult talk, and she had twisted it. I said she did not understand context. Tom said that kids understood more than we thought. He asked if I had considered how it made Mia feel to think her father was useless. I snapped that I was tired of everyone acting like one word could destroy a man. I said Evan was not made of glass. Nia said she had seen the video too. She said watching her son sit there while people laughed at him had made her stomach hurt. She said it was not just one word, it was the pattern. Helena told her not to be dramatic and said this was how modern couples joked. Evan finally spoke. He said, still calm, that he did not feel like anyone's joke. He said he felt like evidence. He said every time I told that story, someone took out their phone. He said he felt less like a husband and more like a case study. That word made me stiffen. I told him he was making himself a victim. I said I was simply telling the truth, that he did freeze in pressure. I repeated the fire alarm story, leaving out the part that made him look good. Helena nodded along. Sophia chimed in with a story about a party where he had stayed in the kitchen washing dishes instead of protecting me from some drunk guy. Graham looked at Evan and asked if he wanted to say anything. Evan said there was nothing to say that would matter more than what was already on people's phones. He said everyone had chosen their story. His voice was not bitter, just tired. Tom set his fork down and told Helena this was not fair. He said mocking a son-in-law in front of his child crossed a line. Helena told him not to take sides against his own daughter. They had a small argument over the table while the rest of us picked at our food. Mia looked around, eyes wide. She asked if Daddy was sad because he was weak. The question hung in the air. Evan told her he was sad because people were not being kind, not because of strength. He told her real strength was staying calm when others were not. I rolled my eyes. I said something about how calm did not stop monsters. I said sometimes you needed someone who would actually move. I meant Luca. I did not say his name, but I felt the shape of it in my mouth. When dinner finally ended, the air felt heavy. Graham pulled Evan aside near the door. I could not hear everything, but I heard Graham say that he was there for him, if it came to that. I heard the word documentation once. Evan nodded. On the drive home, Evan asked if I had heard our daughter call him a burden. I said she was just repeating words. Kids did that. He asked if I really wanted her to grow up thinking that about her father. I said I wanted her to grow up honest, not blind. He said very quietly that things were changing. He said he could not stop me from talking, but he could decide what he would live with. He added that he was done arguing in front of people, that next steps would be different. I told him he was all talk. Back at the apartment, the guest bed looked even more ready. The suitcase was zipped now, pushed just under the frame. On the dresser, his keys were arranged with a new one I did not recognize. His phone buzzed on the nightstand, screen lighting up with a call from a contact, saved only as a briefcase emoji. He silenced it and met my eyes. I asked if he was finally learning how to be strong. He said he was learning how to be clear. I laughed and walked away, telling myself he would never actually do anything. The picture with Luca's arm around my shoulders was not even that bad. That is still what I think. It was after a small campaign launch at work. Everyone was tired and happy, so we went to the same bar near the office. The music was low, the lights were warm, and we crowded around a high table. Someone suggested a group photo. I stood in the middle because I liked the way it looked. Luca stood close on my right. At the last second, he slipped his arm around my shoulders and pulled me in, casual and easy. The photo went into the shared office album. People reacted with little hearts and fire emojis. I commented that my team always made me feel safe. It seemed harmless. Later that night, I caught Evan looking at the picture on his phone. A coworker had tagged me. He asked in a quiet voice who had their arm around me. I told him it was just Luca, a friend from the gym who also worked near us. He asked if it was normal for me to let other men hold me like that when I was married. I said it was normal for women like me who had to build their own safety. He stayed calm. That annoyed me more than any shouting would have. At school pickup the next day, Mia came out holding a drawing. She showed me a picture with 3 figures. The biggest one had long hair like mine and a bright-colored shirt. Next to her was a tall, blocky shape with big arms. Behind them, small and grey, was a 3rd figure. I asked who everyone was. She said the big one was me, the strong one with the shield. The tall one with big arms was the strong man from my phone and the gym. The small grey one was Daddy, who stayed back when danger came. The teacher watched us with worried eyes. When we got home, Evan asked about the drawing. The teacher had already told him a bit at drop-off. He said he was worried our daughter was being taught that her father was useless. I told him she was just creative. I said children always mix characters. I hinted that if he wanted to be drawn as strong, he should try acting that way. That evening, he asked if we could sit and go over our bank statements. He said he wanted to understand why so much money was going to gym sessions, ride shares, and bars when I kept saying we were tight. I said he was trying to control me. I accused him of financial abuse, of monitoring me like a child. He reminded me he was the one paying most of the bills, while I chased a feeling of safety in other places. I raised my voice. I said he had no right to question where I sought support when he refused to be the man I needed. He did not shout back. He simply listened, then said he could not stop me from spending or going out, but he could protect himself and Mia from the fallout. He told me he had taken advice. He said he knew his rights now and understood the options. He said he did not want to fight in front of our child, so he would not argue anymore. He would handle things, in his words, properly. I laughed in his face and asked what that even meant coming from someone like him. He said it meant there would be plans, schedules, and clear lines instead of chaos. He said he was done begging me to respect him. He would let the right people look at the facts and decide. I told myself he was bluffing. I said people like him did not follow through. He repeated that he would handle it properly and walked toward the guest room, leaving me alone in the kitchen with my phone buzzing in my hand. I was the one who wanted the big family lunch, proof that everything was fine. We were halfway through ordering when a stranger stopped at our table and said my full name. I smiled, expecting a promotion flyer or some survey. Instead, he set a thick envelope by my plate and said I'd been served. Inside were screenshots of my jokes, the park videos, bank records, messages with Luca. On top, a divorce petition, temporary parenting plan, separate finances, no posting about Evan or Mia. Evan didn't gloat. He just told our parents this was the safest way now. When I said it was all exaggeration, nobody looked at me. They read,